Imagine standing in the heart of one of the most beautiful places on Earth, Yosemite National Park, a vast wilderness where towering cliffs, deep forests, and pristine lakes draw visitors from all over the world. But beneath its breathtaking beauty lies a darker, more unsettling mystery. For years, people have vanished without a trace, their disappearances leaving authorities stumped and the public bewildered. What if I told you that these aren't just cases of hikers getting lost or accidents? What if I told you some of these disappearances might be linked to something far more chilling, something that defies explanation? These real documented missing person cases from Yosemite have shocked investigators and fueled wild theories. Strange lights in the sky, unexplainable phenomena, and whispers of alien abduction. Before we dive deep into these cases, I want to know where you're watching this from and what time it is. Are you watching in the middle of the night, or are you just starting your day? Let us know in the comments below. Tonight, we're diving deep into the eerie disappearances of Donald L., Gary Mathias, John Donovan, and Timothy K., all of which have baffled authorities and left us with more questions than answers. Could UFOs be responsible for these unexplained vanishings? If you're ready to uncover the truth behind these mysterious disappearances and explore the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another chilling story. Let's dive into the darkness of Yosemite. Case 1. The mysterious disappearance of Donald L. The sun had just begun to dip below the towering peaks of Yosemite National Park, casting long shadows over the rugged terrain. It was a familiar landscape to 24-year-old Donald L., a seasoned hiker who had spent countless hours trekking through the park's wilderness. But on this particular day in August of 1984, he would never return. Donald, a young man with a passion for the outdoors, had gone on many solo hikes before. He was an experienced hiker, accustomed to Yosemite's challenging trails. That evening, he had told his friends he'd be back by dusk. But as the sun set and darkness settled over the park, there was no sign of him. Donald L. was not a stranger to the wilds of Yosemite. Born in Sacramento, California, Donald had a love for nature and hiking that led him to explore the rugged terrain of the national park year after year. He had a strong sense of direction and was always prepared, making his disappearance all the more baffling. On the afternoon of August 10th, 1984, Donald set off on a solo hike along the Glen Aulin Trail, a popular route known for its stunning views of waterfalls and the Tuolumne River. He had planned to return by the evening and had told his friends that he would be back before dark. As evening fell, Donald's friends grew concerned. He had always been punctual. When he failed to return, they immediately contacted park rangers, who began an official search that very night. What followed would become a mystery that has haunted Yosemite for decades. Rangers were quick to mobilize. The park's vast wilderness presented a unique challenge. They began scouring the area, calling in search teams and using helicopters to cover large portions of the park. The terrain was rugged, and there were many places where a person could become lost. But Donald knew the park well, so why was he not found? For the next few days, search teams combed through Glen Aulin and the surrounding area, but there was no sign of Donald. No trail, no footprints, no belongings, not even a single clue. The team grew desperate as they expanded their search area. Days turned into weeks, yet nothing turned up. One of the most strange aspects of the search was that despite Donald's hiking experience and knowledge of the area, no evidence pointed to where he had gone. No dropped items, no sign of a struggle, and no footprints leading off the trail. As the search continued, a bizarre witness account came forward that would further fuel the mystery surrounding Donald's disappearance. Ranger Tom Harris, a seasoned search and rescue officer, was part of the team scouring the area. He was stationed near Glen Aulin when he and others saw something they could not explain. On the night of August 12, 1984, as the search effort intensified, Harris was with a group of rangers and volunteers when they noticed a bright light in the sky. It wasn't a plane, helicopter, or any kind of known aircraft. It was hovering silently over the park, seemingly still before it disappeared abruptly. I've been a ranger 15 years, and I've never seen anything like it, Harris said in a later interview. The light was so bright it almost hurt to look at, but it didn't move like any aircraft I've ever seen. It stayed there for what felt like an eternity, just hanging in the sky. Then, without warning, it shot off at an incredible speed. The light lasted for almost half an hour, and according to Harris and other witnesses, it didn't exhibit the flight patterns of any known aircraft or natural phenomenon. In the aftermath of Donald's disappearance, some believed that this strange sighting was somehow connected to the mystery. Authorities had no concrete leads, and the official report from the National Park Service at the time stated that there was no evidence to suggest foul play or any other factors contributing to Donald's disappearance. They theorized that Donald could have had an accident while hiking. Perhaps he fell or became lost in the dense wilderness. Yet, there were contradictions in the official explanation. For instance, Donald's gear was found to be untouched, and his backpack, which he had packed with supplies for a multi-day hike, was found near the trailhead. His camera, a vital part of his outdoor gear, was found intact, but there were no photos or footage that might indicate what happened to him. In fact, everything seemed normal at first glance. But the longer the search went on without any lead, the more questions arose. Why was Donald's equipment left behind? Why was there no evidence of a struggle, yet no sign of him either? The official conclusion at the time was that Donald must have had an accident. But this was only a theory, and it did little to explain the mysterious circumstances surrounding the case. One of the most eerie accounts came from another witness, a local camper who was in the park around the same time. This camper, who asked to remain anonymous, said they had seen a bright, pulsing light moving through the trees near Glen Aulin. The camper reported feeling a strange sense of unease and described the light as being unlike anything they had seen before. The light didn't move in any way that seemed natural, the camper said. It hovered for a while and then just disappeared behind the trees. I remember thinking that it looked like it was looking for something. I can't explain it, but it felt wrong. This account came out just days after the official search had ended, but it sparked further speculation. Could the strange lights seen near the area where Donald disappeared have been connected? Were they involved in his disappearance? The suspicion of UFOs began to grow, fueled by these accounts of bizarre lights in the sky. Over time, theories about alien involvement started to surface. Some people pointed to the strange lights as a possible clue. Could these lights have been UFOs? Could Donald have been taken by extraterrestrials? While the official investigation did not support this theory, the lack of any physical evidence to explain Donald's disappearance, along with the strange sightings reported by witnesses, made the theory of an alien abduction seem not so far-fetched for some. For years, conspiracy theorists and UFO researchers have pointed to the lack of evidence in cases like Donald's as a potential pattern. The idea that some people simply vanish without a trace, only to leave behind strange lights in the sky, has become a common narrative in UFO lore. To this day, Donald's disappearance remains unsolved. Despite the years that have passed, there has been no new evidence, no body, and no conclusive explanation for what happened to him. Was he the victim of a tragic accident lost in the vast wilderness of Yosemite? Or is there something more sinister at play, something that the authorities cannot explain? The unexplained lights, the odd witness testimonies, and the lack of physical evidence have kept the case alive in the minds of many. Could it be that Donald was taken by something not of this world? The mystery of Donald L. is just one of many inexplicable disappearances in Yosemite, and it leaves us with the chilling question, what really happened to him, and could UFOs be involved? Two, the vanishing of Gary Mathias. On the night of February 24, 1978, 5 friends set out on a seemingly harmless trip to Yosemite National Park, a place of natural beauty and tranquility. But what began as a routine journey for a group of young men would quickly turn into a horrifying mystery that continues to captivate and terrify. The story of Gary Mathias and his 4 companions is one of the most bizarre and chilling disappearances in the history of the park. Gary Mathias, a 25-year-old man from Chico, California, had spent the previous months in a rehabilitation center for schizophrenia. He had been recently released and was eager to rejoin his friends. Together, Gary and his friends made plans to head to Yosemite, where they would spend a weekend exploring the wilderness and enjoying the beauty of nature. The group consisted of Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Theodore, Ted Weir, William Bill Sterling, and Joseph Joey Schramm, all young men in their 20s, excited for a break from their everyday lives. The 5 men departed from Chico on the evening of February 24th, but little did they know this would be the last time anyone would see them alive. The group of friends never made it to their destination, and what followed would be a mystery that would haunt not only their families, but anyone who ever heard the story. The trip started without incident. The group had planned to spend a weekend in Yosemite, but during the night, something went terribly wrong. Their car, a 1969 Mercury Montego, was found the next morning, abandoned along a road near the park, stuck in the snow along a remote mountain road far from any major highway. The car was in perfect condition, the keys still in the ignition, but there was no sign of the men. No footprints leading away from the car, no signs of a struggle, no items left behind, nothing to explain their disappearance. As soon as the families of the men reported them missing, authorities launched an intense search. Park rangers, local police, and even volunteers scoured the area, combing through miles of rugged terrain. For weeks, search teams faced harsh weather conditions, including heavy snow and frigid temperatures. They used helicopters, search dogs, and even tracked footprints in the snow, only to come up empty-handed. But what made this case even stranger were the reports that surfaced during the search. Several witnesses began reporting unusual phenomena, bright glowing lights hovering in the sky above the search area. As the search for the missing men continued, reports of UFO sightings became more frequent. According to search volunteers and rangers, strange lights were seen hovering over the mountains, sometimes moving erratically and then suddenly disappearing. One volunteer, who was part of the search team, described seeing a bright, pulsating light that hovered for several minutes before shooting off at a remarkable speed into the sky. The most unsettling sighting came from two witnesses who were park rangers involved in the search efforts. They reported seeing a low-flying object, a glowing light that emitted a strange hum. The object hovered just above the treetops, moving silently and erratically. After hovering for a few moments, it shot off into the distance at an incredible speed, leaving behind no trace of its presence. One of the rangers, John Haskins, gave an interview later in the investigation, describing the event in chilling detail. "We had been out there for hours, searching in the snow. Suddenly, we all saw this light. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen before. It wasn't an airplane, not a helicopter. It was so bright, almost like a spotlight. It stayed still for a while, then shot straight up, faster than anything I've ever seen. We stood there, just staring at it. It was the strangest thing. It didn't make any noise. Then it was gone." Authorities were puzzled. Was it just a stray aircraft, a weather phenomenon, or was it something else entirely? Weeks passed without a break in the case. Then, nearly a month later, two hikers discovered the remains of Gary Mathias' companions 12 miles from the car. The bodies were found in a remote ravine near Pine Flat Reservoir, deep in the mountains, far from any known hiking trails. The area had been thoroughly searched before, yet no one had found them. But the circumstances surrounding their bodies were baffling. There were no signs of foul play or violence, no gunshot wounds, no signs of struggle. It appeared as though Gary had simply wandered off. The others, Jack Madruga, Theodore Weir, Williams Sterling, and Joseph Schramm, were found scattered in the area with similar signs of exposure and dehydration. But there was something more disturbing about their condition. The bodies had no external injuries, yet there was evidence that they had died in an unusual manner, given the distance they had traveled after abandoning their car. The strange thing was that their bodies were found in such an isolated location. They had no reason to be so far from the road where they had abandoned their vehicle. How had they gotten there? The most perplexing aspect of this case was the lack of logical explanation for how they had disappeared and ended up so far from their car. Was it possible that the men had somehow been lured or guided by the strange lights in the sky? Could they have been disoriented by the lights, causing them to wander into the wilderness, leading them to their ultimate demise? While authorities ruled the deaths as exposure and hypothermia, the UFO sightings during the search left a lingering sense of mystery. Could these mysterious lights be tied to the men's disappearance? Were they victims of something otherworldly, or was there a more earthly explanation? The official investigation concluded that the men had likely become disoriented after abandoning their vehicle in the snow and wandered aimlessly in the wilderness. But the bizarre UFO sightings and the strange circumstances of the men's disappearance have continued to fuel speculation for years. UFO researchers have suggested that the bright lights seen during the search could have been connected to the men's disappearance, perhaps even offering some form of guidance, or perhaps something far more sinister. After all, the distance the men traveled from their car and their mysterious state of mind still doesn't add up. Could it be that the men were the victims of a UFO abduction, and their bodies were later returned to the wilderness, lifeless and confused? The possibility remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries in the history of UFO and missing person cases. To this day, the disappearance of Gary Mathias remains one of the most chilling cases in the history of Yosemite National Park. Was it simply a tragic accident, or could there be something far stranger at play? The unanswered questions about the UFO sightings and the strange circumstances of the men's deaths continue to haunt this case. Could these men have encountered something not of this world, something that led them deep into the mountains, never to return? Case 3. The Disappearance of Joie. In the summer of 1981, a young woman named Joie found herself exploring the majestic wilderness of Yosemite National Park, drawn to its beauty and serenity. Little did anyone know this trip would turn into a disappearance that remains one of the park's most perplexing and eerie cases. Joie was an experienced hiker, well prepared for a solo journey into the depths of Yosemite. However, on the night of July 3rd, something went terribly wrong. Joie vanished without a trace, and to this day, her disappearance remains unsolved. Surrounded by strange, unexplainable lights in the sky that left everyone who witnessed them shaken to their core. Joie, a 26-year-old woman from California, had always had a deep love for nature. She was an experienced hiker who had previously explored Yosemite and had often spent days alone in the wilderness. With her backpack, tent, and map in hand, Joie set out on a solo hike to explore the rugged terrain surrounding Tuolumne Meadows. On July 3rd, Joie arrived at the Meadows campground, a popular area known for its scenic views and hiking opportunities. She had a plan. She would hike for the day and camp in the lakes area, a peaceful, remote spot known for its solitude. Her friends and family knew she would be out for a few days, but nothing in her routine suggested that anything unusual would happen. By the evening of July 4th, Joey's friends began to grow concerned. She had planned to check in, but she didn't return, and the absence of communication was out of character for her. When July 5th came around, and there was still no sign of Joey, her friends immediately contacted the Yosemite National Park rangers to report her missing. The search for Joey began almost immediately. Rangers, volunteers, and friends scoured the area around Tuolumne Meadows, a vast and rugged section of Yosemite with dense forests and challenging terrain. They tracked her last known movements, carefully following her planned route to Tuolumne Lake, but no one could find any trace of Joey. Days passed, and the search grew desperate. Rangers deployed helicopters to cover large portions of the park. They used tracking dogs, who followed the scent trail for miles. Yet despite their efforts, Joey's belongings were found in the weirdest of circumstances. Her tent was still set up, but there were no signs of any struggle or foul play. Her sleeping bag was left open as though she had been there, preparing to settle in for the night. Food and water were found nearby, but there were no signs of her around the campsite. Most strangely, her shoes were left by the campfire, as if she had been sitting there before suddenly deciding to leave. The absence of any footprints or clues leading away from the camp made it seem like Joey had disappeared without any explanation. As the search for Joey intensified, something unsettling began to emerge. Witnesses who had been near Tuolumne Meadows reported seeing strange lights in the sky during the days leading up to her disappearance. On the evening of July 3rd, 1981, just hours before Joey was last seen, several campers and hikers reported seeing a bright light hovering in the sky near the meadows area. The light was described as unusual. It was not like any aircraft or natural phenomenon. It seemed to hover in place for an extended period of time, then move erratically before disappearing. Bob Williams, a seasoned hiker who was camping nearby, was one of the first witnesses to speak about the light. He recounted the event years later. "I was sitting by the campfire with some friends when I noticed a bright light above the treetops. It didn't move like any plane or helicopter I'd ever seen. It was slanted, hovering, and then suddenly it shot off at an angle, faster than anything I could recognize. We all watched it for a while before it vanished. It was eerie, like it was watching us." Another hiker, Susan Miller, also saw the light the same night. "It wasn't like anything I've ever seen before. It was like a ball of light, glowing a strange orange color. It hovered above us for what seemed like forever, and then, without any sound, it just shot off toward the mountains. At first, I thought it might be a helicopter, but it didn't make any noise." The sightings of the strange light were quickly connected to Joey's disappearance, sparking theories of alien abduction and UFO involvement. Could the mysterious light be tied to the sudden and unexplained vanishing of Joey? UFO researchers have long pointed to unexplained disappearances in national parks, suggesting that they may be the result of extraterrestrial activity. The fact that Joey's tent and belongings were left behind with no signs of her departure or a struggle has led some to believe that something more otherworldly was at play. It's important to note that the official investigation did not find any concrete evidence of foul play, nor did it make any official connection to UFOs. The National Park Service attributed Joey's disappearance to a possible accident or the possibility that she had wandered off, disoriented, and succumbed to the dangers of the wilderness. Yet, the UFO sightings and the eerie circumstances surrounding Joey's disappearance have fueled the theory of alien involvement. Could she have been taken by a UFO? Could the light seen in the sky have been connected to her vanishing? One theory suggests that the light was not just a random phenomenon, but may have been an entity looking for something or someone. In some UFO lore, lights and abductions are often linked, with the light being a precursor to the taking of a person. Despite an intense search, Joey's remains were never found. Authorities called off the search after weeks of combing through the wilderness, but her disappearance remains unresolved. The authorities could offer no explanation, and with no trace of Joey or any sign of her whereabouts, the case quickly turned cold. The strange reports of lights in the sky, the bizarre circumstances of her campsite, and the utter lack of clues have kept the mystery alive. Was Joey's disappearance just an unfortunate accident, or was something far more sinister at work? To this day, the disappearance of Joy remains one of the most perplexing cases in Yosemite's history. Was she the victim of a tragic accident, lost in the wilderness with no one around to help? Or could something far stranger have occurred, something that cannot be explained by conventional means? The reports of the strange lights, combined with the unusual circumstances of her campsite, continue to suggest the possibility that Joey's disappearance was not an ordinary case. For now, we can only wonder what really happened to Joy.